In the early days of its existence, over 4.5 billion years ago, Earth was a sitting ball unfit for life, but over time the planet cooled and transformed. Glaciers and rivers formed, along with thermal springs and nourishing atmosphere. Now it's a fertile Earth, ready to give birth to a variety of life. On one unremarkable day, a spacecraft with oval outlines appeared in the skies. From it emerged a being with snow-white skin, and after a brief farewell speech it dissolved into the planet's body. The most common interpretation of this scene suggests that the engineers created life on this planet, but that's not quite accurate. For example, we know for sure that they didn't create the vegetation. You could see it during the introductory scenes. Engineers, as the film's director expressed, act as gardeners. They seek celestial bodies that meet a certain set of criteria and implant their seed, ensuring that nothing hinders its rapid growth. Having obtained the technology of the xenomorphs, the engineers learned how to give birth to offspring at the cost of their own lives, which doesn't seem like an efficient solution to their situation. But what if we leave the principle unchanged but impregnate the entire planet? This is precisely what gardeners do. They only plant the plants they need, with little regard for the diversity of other flora and fauna and their natural balance. They only care about the harvest, fertilizing their seedlings, protecting them from weeds and natural competition. The engineers deliberately grow the same creatures as themselves. The evolution and progress of humanity were carefully controlled by the engineers. They periodically visited us, guided, encouraged, and shared knowledge to ultimately create a paradise on Earth. We know that their language was integrated into our culture, just like religion. It was they who brought agricultural plants like wheat to our planet.
This is wheat. What are the odds of finding human vegetation this far from Earth?
Very unlikely.
The xenomorphs impregnate a foreign organism with their seed and force it to gestate. Their pathogen does the same thing, but at the level of microorganism, and engineers do it on a planetary scale. Creation is the introduction of something new into our reality. The act of creation is also an act of destruction, because in order to create something new, you must destroy the old. After all, we can create only if we have the necessary initial resources. Creation and destruction are two sides of the same coin.
Sometimes to create, one must first destroy.
Following this logic, it seems that Ridley Scott is hinting to us that we, humans, are developing according to the xenomorph principle, as if we are maturing in the body of a Mother Earth that is not our own, gradually destroying it. We mindlessly exploit resources, parasitize on other life forms, only to eventually break free from the Earth's body, terraform new worlds and populate them. This is precisely the vector of unbridled technological development that Peter Weyland led humanity towards.
Which leads to an obvious conclusion. We are the gods now.
Even before the events of Prometheus, Weyland-Yutani had already colonized Mars, and it was from there that the holographic message from its head was recorded. The expedition itself took place much later, at the end of 2093, and less than 30 years later the events of the first alien occurred. There was already a branched infrastructure network of colonies with mutual transport and resource extraction. The reason for all of this is simple. By that time, Earth's resources had long been depleted. Mother Earth was sacrificed to rapid technological development. The tradition of such comparisons dates back to 1979, where cryocapsules were linked to the aliens' cocoons. Planet landings are depicted as fertilization, and in Ridley Scott's films, ships often take on a phallic shape with humans inside. night, as if they were the seed of a ship. Parallels between colonization and conception are also drawn more than once.
Hey, you ever done a landed drop before?
Fuck you.
Please do not challenge my open mindedness. I will slide right out of this jumpsuit and show you how comfortable I am. I will colonize all over this table right now.
In one of the episodes of the movie Alien Covenant, we get a close look at Paradise and its inhabitants. It's one of the planets created by engineers along with Earth. But at the same time, this is the engineers' home planet, where they live in absolute harmony with their creations. This is where their underground bases are located, and it's here that they are awaited even after a 1,000-year absence. Many viewers were puzzled to find not technologically advanced metropolises, but rather a primitive religious community. However, it was precisely for such a result that the entire game was intended. This is how the biblical paradise as we know it appears, and this is the ultimate goal of our cosmic gardeners. They cultivate humans, impose their worldview upon them, thereby closing the path to further development, because from the creator's perspective, the path chosen by Peter Wayland is cursed and leads to extinction. This is why the engineers are driven by the faith that originate from a religious experience after meeting the ancestors of the xenomorphs on planet LV-223. This is why there is no development, no sense of time. It's the only stable, immortal structure of its kind. Nothing changes in Paradise for millennia because of the presence of subordination and the sole owner of the fire of Prometheus. Creatures are allowed to procreate and reproduce, but not to own the technology, and any attempt to do so is met with severe punishment. As soon as the forbidden fruit is taken from the tree of knowledge, humans will be banished from Paradise forever. This group will be considered sinners, and appropriate corrective measures will be taken against them. Otherwise, this cancer will spread rapidly, affecting the cosmos with its metastasis, after which cleaning is carried out. You can compare this process to humans breeding microbes in test tubes. The difference is that engineers think in intervals of thousands of even millions of years and operate on a planetary scale, and for them we are the microbes. By the way, David fully understands all of this and refers to humans as a dying race.
Because they are a dying species grasping for resurrection.
The alternative is simple, the path of love that is presented to us in the character of Elizabeth Shaw, blind faith in the Creator, serving Him and following all the instructions from above, believe in God's original sin and the natural harmony described in the book of Genesis. Humans need gods to find fearlessness in the face of death, and in turn gods need worshippers. It's a drug from which they cannot withdraw. They need those who will build temples in their honor and fill their sanctuaries. Look at the faces of those people. For any of them to ascend to the heavens with the engineers would be a great honor, just as giving their lives in exchange of their mercy. Gods exist as long as there are those who believe in them. In Prometheus, these words should be taken quite literally. But any ideal can be disrupted, and sometimes this happens in the most unexpected way. We know that the engineers attempt to destroy humanity approximately 2,000 years ago.
How long's it been dead?
2,000 years, give or take.
The decision to destroy humanity was made during the historical period of the Roman Empire's zenith and the existence of Jesus Christ. This was explicitly described in the early script, discussed by the screenwriter and director in numerous interviews. The crucifixion of the Son of God became the trigger for the decision to open Pandora's box over the heads of the sinners. Whether Jesus was an engineer or not is not essential. What matters is that if the people of Earth do not embrace the teachings and philosophy of this man, their planet has already transitioned to a different paradigm of development, and catastrophe is imminent. It's just a matter of a few thousand years. To understand the reason behind the aggression of the last surviving engineers, we don't need to know what he said. It's enough to consider what he saw upon awakening. Before the engineer stands his creation, which has come to see itself as an equal. This man is a representative of a civilization that long ago ceased to care about suffering in exchange for eternal life in the heavens. On the contrary, they are willing to do anything for the fountain of eternal youth here and now. The self-proclaimed man showcases his perfect creation, which bears many similarities to the engineers and simultaneously embodies the unconscious desires of its creator. A man-made android, highly intelligent, nearly immortal, devoid of faith and any capacity to create life within itself. David was not born of a woman, he was created by a man. Moreover, at that moment, women behind these people are subjected to violence. Of course, only we know that among the entire group, she is the only believing woman driven on their journey not by selfish motives, but by irrational love for her dead father. Nevertheless, this makes the scene even more symbolic and significant. The engineer no longer has any doubts about the direction of development on our blue planet. Humans are turning into gods, or rather into the engineers themselves. All the red lines have long been crossed, and therefore the decision to destroy is made immediately. These endless cycles of creating new worlds and simultaneously destroying the old, decaying ones continued for millions of years, but each time without a religious counterbalance, humanity is doomed to self-destruct indefinitely. Without the fire of Prometheus, they can be fruitful and multiply, confident in their immortality and simply happy in their relationships with the gods.